we'll be getting started here in a minute, so we'll just kind of get a little update. All the commissioners, if you don't mind, remember when you speak to call your name so that the recorder could get that for the record. That way she doesn't have to stop us and say, "What's your name?" And has anybody got any housekeeping matters they want to keep up or take up before we call the meeting to order?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Just not really a housekeeping deal, but while we got as many people, I guess, probably at the front of the meeting, I was watching the news the other day and noticed that Paducah Police Department does a great community immersion piece, or what I feel like was a great community, and I was going to kind of let everybody hear it and might spark some ideas or something. But they do baseball cards of all of their police officers, and they have 2 or 3 bicycles, all the protective gear, and kids 14 and under come up to the police officers and collect their cards from them. And after they collect so many, then they either go into a drawing, or the one that's got the most actually gets a bicycle. And I thought, man, that's
wonderful.
great.
You're gonna get to meet a guy here that's on our agenda today by chance who's famous on a police baseball card from about 1992, and he would have been a highly collected. He's too Babe Ruth level in our hometown of his baseball cards. But yes, that was very that was a good program, and it needs to be brought back. I'm glad to see that another agency's doing that, but that is a great program.
And it'd be kind of easy to track some of the time too. You know, if you gave away 12 cards and spent 5 minutes with each kid, there's an hour of community immersion right there.
Yeah. So. I kind of like the bicycle giveaway too. That's pretty neat. But yeah, there's a lot of different stuff you could do on that.
Particularly if it was.
Well, yeah. I mean, that certain colors help, or Cincinnati Reds colors. That's pretty good.
I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you. Also, since legal counsel's here, I know we spoke yesterday during the informals about our scheduling, so we need to bring another matter up. And Commissioner Wright brought up a good point where we had it backwards, council, yesterday. We probably need to move our informals to Thursday morning with the small panel, and schedule our formal hearings on Thursday afternoon. That way the commissioners that are traveling from across the state would be here for the afternoon session, and then would continue over into our morning session for our regular business meeting. So if we could work on that moving forward, that would really help and kind of, I think, streamline some of the things that we're doing. So anyway, anything else? If not, Madam Recorder, are you ready to go? And Kat? Okay. Good morning. Come to order. Welcome to the June 2023 post-commission meeting. Got something to add to the agenda. Okay. Everybody's had a chance to look over the agenda, I hope, and we have an addition we need to make to the agenda. We're bringing forward, I think you should have an attachment before you. It's going to be part of our old business, be part of Harriman Police Department, requesting a waiver and in-service for Officer Billy Joe Langford. If there's no other additions or corrections, I would ask for a motion to amend the agenda along with an adoption of the agenda, adding the old business under old business with Harriman Police Department.
Commissioner Beverly, make the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is adopted. Roll call.
Commissioner Beverly.
Here.
Commissioner Birchfield. Commissioner Carter. Commissioner Cherry. Here. Commissioner Green. Here. Commissioner Halsey. Here. Commissioner Isbell. Commissioner Jackson. Here. Commissioner Russell. Commissioner Spangler.
Here.
Commissioner Wagoner.
Here.
Commissioner Wright.
Here.
Vice Chair Faulkner. Chairman Parton.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. If you could give us the disclaimer.
Sure. All post commissioners have previously agreed to recuse themselves from any vote that would constitute a conflict of interest. The most obvious of these would include issues that involve their own departments or some that they know personally. Because they've already agreed to this, it should be noted that on routine matters, it will be assumed not verbally that these commissioners have abstained from that vote. And bigger, more controversial issues that may have a more overt conflict of interest, that may have an appearance of impropriety, those applicable commissioners will still verbally abstain from those votes.
Thank you. Any additions or corrections to the minutes of the May commission meeting? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Commissioner Spangler, make a motion to approve.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the minutes from May indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Decertification hearings for June.
Okay, very quickly, we'll go over the results from yesterday. Read these into the record. The Metropolitan Nashville Police Department, Landon Reese Bagwell. The commission approved a default order of decertification in that case. In the Weakley County Sheriff's Office, Kristen Taylor Childress. It was approved for a default order of decertification. For Eric Bradley Clem of the Coffee County Sheriff's Office, that was placed into suspended status. The Metropolitan Nashville Police Department, Gardner Bradley, that was a default order of decertification. Memphis Police Department, Preston Robert Hemphill, suspended status was approved in that matter. Brandon Deshaun Hughes of the Shelby County Sheriff's Office approved a default order of decertification. Spring City Police Department, which relates to what was added to the old business, there was a motion and it was approved for no action and for a waiver to be presented today in this meeting. Lawrenceburg Police Department, Skylar Shane Lopp, default order of decertification. Mount Juliet Police Department, Cody Allen Mang, that was a default order as well. He is incarcerated. The Memphis Police Department's Elijah Graham Presley, no action was taken in that particular case. Jacob Samuel Smith, Tullahoma Police Department, motion was approved for decertification. Charleston Police Department, Michael Ryan Strope, a motion for no action to be taken in that was approved by the informal committee. Daryl Wayne Valise of the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security, a motion for default order of decertification was approved. And Lakin Price Whitlock of the Kingsport Police Department, suspended status and suspended certification approved by the informal committee.
Thank you, Director. Is there any discussion, comments, or questions regarding the June decertification hearings? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Have a motion. Commissioner Jackson with a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. We'll be moving over to page 3 of the docket. Appearing before the commissioners for pre-employment requirements, Clarksville Police Department.
Clarksville Police Department requests a criminal record waiver for Jordan Elizabeth Bunting, hired May 22nd, 2023. In June of 2017, Ms. Bunting was convicted of DUI in Butler County, Ohio. Ms. Bunting has since satisfied all court-ordered sentencing fines and fees.
Thank you. We have anybody appearing this morning from Clarksville. Please come to the podium, state your name and your position, and explain to us what you found in your pre-employment investigation, please.
Good morning. My name is Ben Blackman. I'm a lieutenant with the Clarksville Police Department's Professional Integrity Unit. We are the unit that is responsible for background investigations. Ms. Bunting was hired May 22nd. Prior to that, she underwent a background investigation. On her initial interview with the background investigator, she disclosed having been charged with operating a vehicle under the influence by the Monroe Police Department in Ohio, and identity theft. We were able to find that the identity theft was reduced and expunged, but the OVI charge is ineligible for expungement. We found Ms. Bunting during the background to be candid, to be forthcoming and honest. She's convinced us that that was a defining moment in her life, and she's used that as a learning experience. We're hoping that she's allowed to continue pursuing her certification.
Any questions from the members of the board to the representative of Clarksville Police Department? Hearing none, if Ms. Bunning would want to come forward. Good morning. How are you? You may have to come closer to the mic and speak. Is your red light speak?
Gordon Bunting? No, it is.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Can you kind of go over with the board the circumstances of your DUI arrest?
Yes, sir. In 2017, my brother and I went to a concert at a local event center. We had an agreement that I would drive to the concert and he would drive back. When we got to the concert, I consumed a couple alcoholic beverages before going inside. When we left, he began driving home and informed me that he was too intoxicated to drive. So we switched seats and I pulled into a McDonald's to get some food and water to kind of sober us up a little bit. However, the drive-through attendant noticed that I was intoxicated and she called the local police department. When they arrived, I agreed to all of the field sobriety tests, which I had failed, and I was arrested for that. And then the officer also found a driver's license in my wallet that was not mine. It was my deceased sister's, who passed away shortly before this incident, and I didn't have her ID for illegal purposes. I just had it because it was a personal item of hers.
Thank you. Can you tell the board what your do you know at the time what your blood alcohol level was at the time of arrest?
It was 1.7. 0.17. I'm so sorry.
0.17. Okay. Any questions of the commissioners?
Commissioner Terry, I just have a couple of questions, if I may. This was quite a while back, more than 6 years ago. Since that time, what have you been doing? What's your employment history or education history? What have you been doing since that time?
Yes, sir. So I, that same year, I married my husband. We were high school sweethearts. We got married in December of that year. He then enlisted in the military, so we moved to Hawaii, where he served his first term, and I worked as end-of-life care for hospice. And I continued doing that while we moved to Kentucky. He re-enlisted again for the military for Fort Campbell so I could have my degree before he got out. I graduated with my Bachelor's of Science in Criminal Justice in October at the top of my class, and then we bought our first home October of last year.
As far as your drinking habits, has that changed since this DUI in 2017? And could you just tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yes, sir. I hardly drink at all anymore. It's not for me. I drink maybe on special occasions, and that's it. It's just, I hardly drink anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions?
Commissioner Wright. Ms. Bunny, can you tell us what the circumstances were that caused the McDonald's employees to think you were intoxicated?
Yes, sir. My voice was very slurred. I wasn't comprehending, and they weren't comprehending what I was trying to say either. It was very apparent that I was intoxicated. They did the right thing by calling the authorities.
If I may, it's Commissioner Cherry again. I think there was something in the paperwork that we looked at that said something about your vehicle being stuck in the landscaping or something to that effect. Is that?
Yes, sir. That did happen. My brother pulled the steering wheel in the drive-thru and it went over the curb. I think he was trying to get me to leave. I didn't want to leave, so I just kind of left it there. It was not a proud moment of my life.
Okay.
Very embarrassing.
Okay, thank you.
And what are you currently doing
As in education or career?
in employment?
I'm a cadet with Clarksville Police Department. Prior to this, I worked end of life care, and then I switched to a more administrative role after my last patient passed away, just to kind of give myself a little bit of a breather. Since then, once I graduated college, I applied to Clarksville Police Department.
So you're an employee now of the city of Clarksville?
Yes, sir.
Are you with the FTO or something right now?
No, sir. I'm in the training program. The way they do it in Clarksville is they'll hire you, you'll swear in, and then you will work kind of internally with the department, learning about all of the aspects of going into law enforcement to prepare you to go to the academy.
Mr. Chairman.
You're recognized.
Commissioner Beverly. I'm looking on here. It looks like there was also a charge of forgery as well. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, sir. That was the ID that was in my wallet. I can't remember if I specified with the officer of whose ID it was. I would assume that I did. I want to reiterate that it was my sister's ID. I wasn't using it for illegal purposes. It was just on my person.
I understand. I just saw the charge also for the possession of the other person's ID and then the forgery. I wanted some clarification on that.
I believe the ID was dropped to forgery when I went to court because the ID charge was considered a felony. So I went ahead and pled guilty to the OVI and had the charge reduced from the felony to forgery.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
This is Commissioner Cherry again. And again, just to clarify, that charge has been expunged and it's no longer on your record. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It was expunged January of this year.
Commissioner Parton again. Were you in college at the time of this incident?
I was a freshman at the time. After the incident, and after I got married, I unenrolled with Miami University and switched to a primarily online degree program with SNHU.
What was your initial thoughts on your degree major when you were a freshman?
I was majoring in criminal justice then as well.
And this incident didn't make you change your thoughts on criminal justice, or was you looking at pre-law?
It didn't change my mind on anything. If anything, it made me appreciate the criminal justice system more, just because I think that if I wouldn't have gotten in trouble that night, I would have went down a different path. So I'm very thankful for that.
Any other questions of the commissioners? Hearing none, to move our docket along, what is the wishes of this board?
Make a motion to approve. This is Commissioner Cherry.
Mr. Cherry has made a motion to approve. Do I hear a second? Commissioner Green is second the motion. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Beverly. Commissioner Cherry.
Aye.
Commissioner Green. Commissioner Halsey. Commissioner Isbell.
No.
Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Spangler. Commissioner Wagner. Commissioner Wright. Chairman Parton.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Congratulations. Make your city and the state proud.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, Houston County Sheriff's Office.
Houston County Sheriff's Office requests a military discharge waiver for Timothy Christopher Smith. Hired April 1, 2023. In February of 2021, Mr. Smith was discharged from the United States Army with an under honorable conditions general discharge.
Good morning, Red.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
Fine.
Can you identify yourself?
Deputy Spencer Bryant.
Thank you. Can you explain to the board what you found?
When we hired Mr. Smith on April the 1st, he produced DD 214, was a general under honorable conditions. I did reach out to and got a report from Quantico. Mr. Smith was interviewed during an incident during his military career, but was never charged or anything like that during that investigation. Mr. Smith does have, it is showing on his criminal history, that is a military thing that questioned on the criminal history. Our agency is asking for a waiver for Mr. Smith due to the fact that the incident report did not show arrest or a conviction in this incident.
What was the code in the DD 214? I don't. The JKQ separation code. Yeah, JKQ. JKQ. Okay. Misconduct, commission of a serious offense. Can you explain to us what the misconduct and the commission of the serious offense is for him?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name's Timmy Smith. The incident was during a deployment. There was a failure of communication between me and another individual. Chain of command felt that it was something that they wanted to pursue as far as a summary court martial. The incident was while we were deploying, we have what's called an Eagle Cash card. His wasn't working, mine was. We have came to an agreement between the two of us during the time he was being sent to train Afghan soldiers and I was being sent in country. I had still a hold of his card, he had mine, and when he went to go use his, he didn't have it. He filed a police report, and that's when I was pulled in for questioning, and that's when they determined that it was kind of a miscommunication. However, chain of command, Sergeant Major and all of them decided to pursue a larceny charge, which was what it inadvertently got the other than honorable general condition.
Commissioner Parton again. Sir, have you been working in the jail?
Sir, I have.
How long have you worked in the Houston County Jail?
I've been there for off and on for about 6 years as a non-facility support staff.
So you've come and gone a couple of times?
Yes, sir.
Was this DD 214? Was that disclosed to the administration?
It was previously disclosed. When I was hired on, they did know about my discharge.
Did they take you to TCI for a waiver for them to
They
work
did not. The jail administrator at the time when I was hired, because I also have an Air Force DD 214 with an honorable, he did not know that I would actually have to have a waiver due to the fact of having an honorable discharge.
Questions of the commissioners? Commissioner
Green,
Green.
what capacity are you working now?
I still work with the jail and the Sheriff's County department there as a non-facility support staff, overseeing inmates and the work that they do, and assisting with anything else that the department would need, as far as either standing by at court, transporting inmates back and forth from the jail to the courthouse.
Are you carrying a firearm in your capacity
I
at the
do.
sheriff's office? You do? Thank you.
It's good to see you, Commissioner Russell. For the record, we have Commissioner Russell with us now. You're recognized, sir.
Apologize for being late. My flight got delayed a little bit.
We understand.
So, what happened to the larceny charge?
The larceny charge was subsequently reduced down through the UCMJ courts martial hearing to where it was just a patterns of misconduct. They felt and determined after talking to me, the other individual in charge, and then chain of command, that it was more, for a lack of better terms in their terminology, it was just kind of a way to try and push me out. There was issues between me and the sergeant major that were ongoing since I got there.
Did you include a copy of the disposition from that larceny charge in your paperwork?
I did not because it took quite a bit for me to get a copy of it from them. It was sealed after everything was said and done.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Cherry. Just a couple of things for the benefit of the commission. This is a case where we've got a service member who has several discharges in his record. On the enlisted side in the military, once you go through an enlistment, and oftentimes even in the reserves, if you go for a short period of active duty, you'll get a discharge for that period of active duty. In this case, and you can probably tell us off the top of your head, how many honorable discharges do you have in your history? Between the Army and the Air Force, because you had a couple in the Army also, didn't you, before you had this incident?
Yes, sir, I did. I had one for the Air Force, and during my term on the Army, I had 2 honorable discharges, and then the last one is the general discharge.
Okay. Now, and you can help me. I'm just reading through the paperwork we have here. There are a couple things I was kind of curious about, and maybe you can clarify for us. It appears that you were sent to a summary court martial, and again, for the benefit of the board, that's kind of a different style of animal. We don't really have those in the civilian system the same way as they are in the military. And there are different levels of punishment. You can have what's referred to as non-judicial punishment, where you stand before a commander and he has limited authority to reduce a person in rank, restrict them to barracks, and take away pay, and things like that. The summary court martial is a little bit higher level. Typically, a summary court martial officer is somebody who's a little more detached from the situation. He's not going to be the commander of the military member, but he or she acts in essence kind of as everything all in one, where he or she can hear the evidence and make a determination of guilt or innocence. It's not something that comes to the same level as a special court martial or a general court martial, but it's more serious than non-judicial punishment. And as I recall, that there's no separation authority in a summary court martial, so a person cannot be discharged. You can be confined for a limited period of time. It's been a while since I've looked at those rules, so I don't remember them all off the top of my head. But with a summary court martial, typically if somebody is convicted, one of the follow-ups that can happen is a person can be processed administratively for discharge and would be subject possibly to another than honorable discharge. And am I correct is that what happened in your case?
Yes, that is correct. I did originally get an other than honorable. I did, however, have it appealed and upgraded to the general discharge.
So with backing up just for a second to the summary court martial, you had a summary court martial officer that heard your case, and evidently you lost that that case. Is that right? Did he find you guilty at the summary court martial?
He did find me guilty of a pattern of misconduct instead of the larceny. That they approved the other than honorable that was being pushed forward.
So, did you have a separate board to look at your administrative discharge after the summary court martial?
Yes, I did appeal it to the Department of Justice and the Homeland Security with the Department of Defense. The board separation panel is the one that reviewed everything and have all convened and decided to allow me the upgrade possibility.
How long ago did that happen?
I got that paperwork. I applied back about 16 months ago, and then with the amount of upgrades that they have, I received that upgrade in April.
Okay, so that would be a reason why you're seeking to. You can actually go into law enforcement now because the other than honorable discharge would have prohibited you from being certified as an officer, and now that is a general discharge under honorable conditions, you're eligible to seek a waiver and become a regular law enforcement officer.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, so and you know that, and I just want to put that on the record and kind of help with the understanding of this board as we're looking at this. So that kind of fills in some of the blanks for us. Thank you.
Thank you. So what's your motion, General Cherry?
My motion is to approve the waiver.
I have a motion to approve the waiver. Do I hear a second? Commissioner Halsey with a second. Any discussion on the motion?
This is, I guess, back to General Cherry, Commissioner Green. If I understood you and I got confused, are you almost saying he doesn't need a waiver since it's now general under honorable conditions?
Well, I think he still needs to have a waiver for
Okay.
a general discharge.
That
For an
was my only
honorable
question.
discharge, he wouldn't. And that terminology is a little bit foggy. Administratively, there are three types of discharges. The least favorable is other than honorable, which would make him ineligible to serve as a police officer. Honorable discharge, he doesn't need a waiver. But for that in between, that general under honorable conditions, he does need a waiver. So that's what we're looking at.
This kind of in a neutral zone for this board to decide, basically make that decision. But we're very fortunate that we have a General Cherry with us on this board that is an expert in these matters. So,
Better be careful. My head's starting to kind of swell here.
well, I didn't talk about your beauty today, so not yet. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck, sir, and we wish you the luck and thank you for your service.
Thank you, John.
Just try not to get too rowdy on the civilian side or you'll be back up here. Okay. Moving on, Rutherford County Sheriff's Office.
Rutherford County Sheriff's Office requests a criminal record waiver for Tyler Davis Johnston, hired May 1, 2023. In June of 2014, Mr. Johnston was charged with DUI in Breckenridge, Colorado. In July of 2015, Mr. Johnston pled guilty to the charge and has since satisfied all court-ordered sentencing fines and fees.
Thank you. Representatives from Rutherford County Sheriff's Office, come forward and identify yourself, and you can explain to the board what your case is today.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Sergeant Benson with Rutherford County Sheriff's Office. I'm a sergeant in the Patrol Division. I'm in charge of new hire training program, the field training officer program, and our traffic program. With Mr. Recruit Deputy Tyler Johnston, during his pre-employment interviews, he was open and honest with the fact that he'd received a DWAI in Breckenridge, Colorado back in 2014. He had, as stated in the request, already fulfilled all obligations in that matter itself. In 2018 to 2020, he worked as a certified police officer for the Vail, Colorado Police Department. 2020, he moved back here to his hometown of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We started working as a parole officer. This past year, he applied with us to come over and be a deputy sheriff, and he's currently in the training program in which he's been excelling in all aspects of it, and we are requesting a waiver to allow him to continue his employment with us and get him into the July transition course.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Beverly, I don't have a question. I do have a conflict of interest on this case. I'm a Rutherford County Commissioner and just wanted it reflected in the minutes. I'm abstaining from discussion and voting.
Really know you. Any other questions or comments from representative of Rutherford County? Hearing none, will your cadet come forward and kind of go over his situation? Thank you. Got to get close to that microphone.
Better. Yes. In June of 2014, I was living in Breckenridge, Colorado. The town had what they called a town party that day, where they had a bunch of local vendors come and set up booths, food, alcohol, crafts, things like that. I spent the day there in town. By the time I was ready to go home in the evening, I noticed that the car, or where I parked my vehicle, was in a spot where it was subject to be towed if I left it overnight. I made the wrong decision to end up trying to drive it home that evening. On my way home, driving up the mountain pass where I lived, there was a man walking down the middle of the road and towards me in my direction. By the time I saw him, the only thing I could do to try to avoid hitting him was swerve to the right. He ended up hitting my side view mirror that evening. I stopped the vehicle, tried to check on him. He turned away and walked away from me, acted like he didn't want any of my help or assistance. So in my state, I thought he must be okay, and I continued the 2-minute drive approximately home back to where I lived. When I got back, I was looking at my vehicle to see if there was any damage to it, and I noticed a Breckenridge police officer pulled into the parking lot of where I lived. I approached the officer, and I said to him, I think you're probably going to be looking for me, and he asked if I had hit somebody on Boreas Pass Road, where I did. Yes. At that point, he arrived on scene, and they performed standardized field sobriety testing on me, which was not completed to their satisfaction, and I was taken into custody.
Thank you, Commissioner Parton. What was your blood alcohol content?
I believe it was a little delay. They did actually take me to the hospital to get a blood draw. I believe it was a 0.14.
Wagner, I have a question for you. You were a certified police officer in Colorado for how long? And what years were those?
2018 to 2020.
So it was, they did a background check and you, I assume, went through the same process you're going through now.
I actually didn't have to go before any kind of post commission for that, but they were aware. It might have been done without my presence there. Correct. Yeah.
Anyway, you divulged it when you went to work for the agency in Colorado, and they hired you.
Yes, sir.
2 years, you said.
Yes, sir.
I guess, do you still hold a certification in Colorado?
I do. Yes.
So
we're trying to get me through the transition school. So
okay, but you're inactive in Colorado, I guess, because you left employment.
Yes, sir.
This is Commissioner Chair. Mr. Johnson, can you tell us what your practices and your attitudes are with respect to alcohol consumption now, and how that's, or if it has changed over the past several years?
Absolutely. That night was a big wake-up call. It actually inspired me to kind of start going down this career path. I'd wanted to do this for a long time, but I realized that, for lack of a better term, I was a ski bum in Colorado, and I needed to kind of get my career going. So that inspired me to move up in the company that I was at the time as a loss prevention manager and eventually a police officer. And as regard with alcohol, I knew I couldn't drink excessively, or really, I do still have an occasional drink every now and then, but it's within moderation. But that lifestyle of going out in the town and having fun a couple nights a week really stopped then.
This doesn't really matter that much, but what's your family situation? Are you married, single, kids? What's that?
Yeah, I met my wife in Vail, Colorado. We've been married for about 5 years now. My family lives here. We don't have any kids yet. We actually have one on the way.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My parents are still married. They live here in town. My brother and his wife just had a kid. They live here in town. My sister lives in Massachusetts with her 2 children.
One other question. Coming from somebody who spent a little time in Colorado Springs, how did you make it from Tennessee to Colorado?
I grew up here initially. I moved here in 2nd grade. I stayed here all through. I graduated from OTSU. After I graduated, I moved out to Colorado. I was out there for about 9 years before I decided it was time to come back.
Commissioner Russell, Mr. Johnson, when you left Colorado, did they give you separation paperwork that says you left in good standing?
I'm not sure if I received paper. I know I am in good standing. I've used them as references for my last job and this one. I'd have to check and see if I have any official paperwork for it, though. I'm not sure if they did.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wright.
You recognize.
Mr. Johnson, did you notice any visible injuries to the man when you got out of the vehicle to check on him?
Unfortunately, I didn't. It's very dark. There were no lights on the road that I was driving on. He was standing approximately 25 feet away from me. When he turned around and walked away from me, I couldn't see any visible injuries. And in my mind, if he was walking away not wanting to discuss, I thought he must be okay.
Was there any visible damage to your vehicle?
There was. The driver's side view mirror was disconnected and was hanging on by an electrical cord. And I discovered that when I got back to my house, and which is why I was looking at my vehicle when the wreck.
You said driver's side?
Correct.
So, from the report, where was this gentleman walking? Was he walking in the middle of the road, or were you driving in the extreme right-hand side ditch?
It was in the middle.
Right again. So they charged you, looks like, with 3 felonies and 3 misdemeanors, and you just played it down to the DUI? Is that what I'm...
That's correct. It was pled down to driving while ability impaired.
Did you voluntarily give consent for blood, or did they have to get a warrant for that?
They did have to receive a warrant. At the time, I wasn't aware of what express consent was. And I had them explain it to me, but again, I wasn't in my right state of mind. They did have to receive a warrant for that evening, yes.
Commissioner Spangler.
You recognize, sir.
Mr. Johnson, what are you doing now for Rutherford County?
I'm in their training program, hopefully to go to the transition school to have my post-accreditation moved from Colorado to Tennessee.
Start out in corrections or anything?
I did not, no.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Russell. Mr. Johnson, did you make any DUI arrests in Colorado?
I have, yes.
Was any of your arrests challenged due to your background?
They were not, but I do believe it had me have a greater appreciation and understanding for them because of what I went through. However, no, none of my arrests were challenged.
During your time up in Colorado, did you have any disciplinary actions against you during that 2 years you spent in law enforcement?
No, sir.
Seems to me like Mr. Johnson's revived himself. I'll make the motion to approve it.
A motion to approve.
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion on the motion?
I'll jump in with a little discussions, Commissioner Cherry. I kind of hesitate to jump in because you all know I kind of lean toward the side of agency officer when they're seeking these waivers, but I think it's important to kind of note a couple of things here. First of all, the length of time, 2014, it's 2023 now, so we've got a 9-year period of time for this officer to progress and develop. Second of all, he's already been certified in Colorado. The Colorado system saw fit to allow him to serve as a police officer, and all the indications are that he served honorably and appropriately. Third thing that's interesting to me is that he's worked for the is it probation and parole that you're working for?
I was prior to being employed by Rutherford County.
Right.
I was a parole officer for the
And
state.
how long did you do that?
About 1.5 years.
Okay. There are a couple of letters of recommendation in this package. If you had a chance to look at those, that describe this officer as somebody who's calm and deliberate and handles himself well. The kind of officer that I think one of the comments in the paperwork, as I recall, had something to the effect of he's not the typical. And they didn't use this term, but my own term would be cowboy going out. Somebody that's aggressive and boisterous and loud in their activities. The impression I got from reading those letters is that this officer is calm in demeanor and would exert a calming influence when he's dealing with troublesome situations. His family situation is appropriate. I think whatever lesson needed to be learned was learned a long time ago, and I would encourage this board to consider him to allow him to be a police officer in Tennessee.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Roll call.
Commissioner Cherry, Commissioner Green, Commissioner Halsey, Commissioner Isbell, Commissioner Jackson, Chairman Parton, Commissioner Russell, Commissioner Spangler, Commissioner Wagner, Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Beverly abstained. Ayes have it.
Thank you. So just know moving forward in a lot of judiciary things in Tennessee, there's with DUI arrests, particularly DUIs and testimonial courts, things have changed. The defense attorneys really dig into individual officers' records these days. So yourself and your department need to be prepared to answer credibility issues and whatnot in the future. Okay. All right. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't have any waivers for another academy this month. Moving over to page 4, waiver of basic and specialized substitutions for in-service training, Manchester Police Department. Come forward, please.
Manchester Police Department requests the Post Commission's approval to forego transition school for Charles Ivan Taylor, hired May 22nd, 2023. Mr. Taylor's last date of full-time law enforcement employment was January 30th, 2020.
Thank you. Representatives of Manchester, identify yourself, please.
I'm admin captain of Manchester Police Department, Dale Robertson. My role is GDI for Manchester Police Department, along with many other administrative duties.
Thank you. Can you discuss with the board what you're trying to accomplish today?
We're bringing forth a request in Charles Ivan Taylor forego the Transition Academy. He has a lot of experience. We're happy to have him. He started with Manchester, his career in '91, going to the academy at Toledo, graduating there. Left Manchester in 1997 to join the Manchester Fire Department, where he rose to the rank of chief of Fire Hall, and then retired, left there, and then decided to get back in law enforcement, worked for Coffee County Sheriff's Department, where he rose to the rank of sergeant before retiring again, and he's decided to return, and our plans are to put him in Westwood Elementary as one of our SROs.
Okay, thank you. I will go ahead and at this point give disclosure on my part. Mr. Taylor is a former employee of mine, retired in excellent standing, was a SRO with our high school, and then when he retired, he was a supervisor under me. Mr. Taylor probably will not talk about this, but to give y'all some background, because I know we have a lot of discussion about these barely out of compliance people. Mr. Taylor left. His wife was diagnosed with cancer, and she was been many years of a nurse and a fine lady. Charlie was one of my FTOs when I began law enforcement 30 years ago. Charlie is probably one of the most diverse and experienced in all across public safety, from fire to law enforcement, that we have in our county. And I think things are getting better at home, and Charlie lives behind one of my elementary schools. I'm kind of jealous and upset that he's not coming back to me, but he's making a full circle again and going back to Manchester, where he originally started, if this board agrees with this. But Charlie's son-in-law has also been a deputy with us and is now over at the city of Manchester, and lives behind the elementary school. And I know the question is going to be asked about in-service and those type things. Charlie has been very involved with us and the whole community. He's been family, will always be family to our departments, but he is well diverse. He's well knowledged, and the man's been through the police academy twice. And he's also the rookie of the year of the 1992 baseball law enforcement card program. So he was one of the most favored police officers in 1992 when they had our card program. But we're very proud of Charlie, and we're glad he's coming back. And we're having a hard time, as everybody will know, we're having a hard time finding good quality senior people that care about children, but yet can be very protective to hire as SROs. And I would ask that this board really look into this waiver. I feel, as chairman of this board, I have, with any doubt, I could call Charlie and he would help me, teach me things. And we're glad he's coming back. And one of these days he's going to hang it up for good. But anyway, thank you. And if anybody else has any questions, we would like to hear from Mr. Taylor.
Don't believe everything he's. I wasn't the rookie of the year.
Close to it.
Maybe.
Mr. Taylor, could you elaborate a little more about? I know your last employment was January 30th of 2020, and that 3-year period, we're out by a couple of months here. But could you kind of tell the board what you've done besides taking care of your wife and family and during her medical issues?
I'm thankful for those 3 years, because we spent most of last year in Birmingham with chemo and ended the year in radiation. But when I left the sheriff's department, I thought, this is cool. I don't have to do anything. And that lasted about a month. And in February, I went to work for Solaren Risk Management, have my armed security license, and worked most of all my jobs in Nashville, from Bass Pro to Opry Mills to Opryland Hotel to traffic. But the good thing about it was I could work when I wanted to, and it wasn't a burden. My wife's cancer started in 19 before I left the sheriff's department, and from August to about November I didn't work, which put a burden on the sheriff's department, put a burden on my shift. So her cancer it's not curable, but it's stable, and we only have to go now, like she takes oral chemo at home. We only have to go like every 3 months now. And when this job opened up, it was really her idea that I take this, and I did. I started in Manchester Police Department in 1990, and did go to Toledo in 91. When I went to Sheriff's Department in 2014 under previous administration, Johnny Welch decided I was his first class in Toledo, and he was now the person that said, well, if he wanted to be a fireman, he can go back to the academy. And I did 10 weeks in 2014. But I have been working. I haven't just been sitting. It wasn't strictly law enforcement, but it's associated. That's what I've been doing.
Thank you. Any questions of the members?
Commissioner Beverly, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Taylor and Captain Robertson, and I hope to see you later this afternoon, all spry and ready to go to work tonight. Thank you.
I'll say this to Mr. Taylor. This is Commissioner Green. You can find me over here. Retirement, you're making me feel bad. You're making me feel bad. Again, you're making me feel bad.
All right, moving on to what do we have? Approved 7 post-transition school waivers. And then we have waivers of substitution, basic training, Clinton Police Department, Dixon County Sheriff's Office, Sevier County Sheriff's Office, Knox County Sheriff's Office, University of Memphis Department of Safety, and University of the Swanee University of the South Campus. Any questions on those waivers of substitution and of basic training?
I've got one question. On the Sevier County, did they withdraw him? I understand he's not employed anymore. Raphael, do you know?
Just was asked that question this morning, and I haven't had an opportunity to check to see if they've sent any separation paperwork, but I can check here real quick. He still does show as an active employee with Sevier County. We can reach out to the agency and find out and get that status updated if need be.
You want to, if there's a question, do you want to exempt Sevier County from the motion?
Appropriate thing to do if we would do somebody that's not working anymore.
Do you want to make a motion to approve all in the record except for Sevier County, and they will be pushed out until further notice? Okay. Have a motion to accept all agencies except Sevier County in the matter of the record. Do we hear a second? Have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Does everybody understand? Okay. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving over to page 5.
Waivers of in-service requests for waivers have been received for the following officers, so they, as well as their departments, will remain in compliance with post guidelines. They're not eligible for the 2022 salary supplement. You'll notice here, too, that we have gone to more of the consent agenda for things that did not raise red flags with our administrative staff. But we'll begin with the Chattanooga Police Department requesting a waiver of in-service for Brooke Danielle Lopez, hired August 26, 2022. Ms. Lopez completed 4 hours of in-service training during the 2022 calendar year. The agency will allow both the agency and the officer to remain in compliance.
Chair makes a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Memphis Police Department. You'll see the following names of record. Any questions or concerns of the names of record from Memphis Police Department? Hearing none, the chair will make a motion to approve Memphis PD.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor? Correction. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to page 6 of the docket.
The following departments, excuse me, are requesting a waiver of the 6-month rule to keep their officers in the department in compliance. Request a 6-month waiver. The Cleveland Police Department requests a 6-month waiver for Lucas Guy McCune, hired November 28, 2022. Mr. McCune attended the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy in April of 23, but was able to complete the training due to an injury. Mr. McCune is scheduled to reattend Toledo in July of 2023.
Thank you. Any questions from the officer from Cleveland PD? If not, the chair will make a motion to approve. Have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Grundy County Sheriff's Office.
Grundy County Sheriff's Office requests a 6-month waiver for Ronald Dale Bess, hired September 1, 2022. Mr. Bess attended Toledo in April 2023, but was unable to complete the training due to an injury. Once medically cleared, Mr. Bess will reattend Toledo.
I want to speak on this matter for a minute. We've had anybody appearing here from Grundy County today? Anybody online, Kat, from Grundy County? If everybody recalls, the newly elected Grundy County Sheriff came to us with this one individual and one other one gentleman was a former trooper. He'd been out of law enforcement about 20 years, and we approved him to go. And since that time, I'm just studying from this system here that all that has fell apart. They were to report to Nate's director is supposed to report. Mr. Bess was going to report to orientation that afternoon, I think, after that meeting, and then something came up, and they did not report back. And I think since that time, the one individual has left the sheriff's department because they came to us wanting to change and go to another academy somewhere. But I just don't feel comfortable with all this. And then remember, Mr. Bess and the department this has been going on since September, since this administration took office. And I think Mr. Bess is he the chief deputy?
That I'm not sure of.
Did they say what the injury was as far as it in the record? What type of injury it was?
We're looking on that. It appears to me that they at least ought to show up to explain their position. I know it's an injury thing, and it may be justified, but remember the conversations that went on almost a year.
Well,
I know they don't have to appear on something like this.
Well, and I would like to be able to ask, and I agree with you, Commissioner. I would like to ask and see what Mr. Bess is doing right now.
So, Supervisor 2, Cat Cooper, just let me know that he is not the chief deputy. He is a captain with the sheriff's office.
So that's still a pretty high-ranking position. I just, and I hate, being a sheriff myself and a neighbor to the county. It makes it tough, like police chiefs. But we got to do what's right. But I just feel that there's
Mr. Wagner. Yeah, do we know
issues?
It seems to me like was he going to be administrative captain? Was that the plan? Or I remember him coming here and the two gentlemen you're talking about, but. I mean, I don't know how you can be a captain, in the field, on patrol or something like that.
I would
not be certified.
I just feel that we might need to pass on this. I mean, I'm not unless one of the other members makes a motion to approve or disapprove. But I feel that we may need to pass on this waiver and maybe till next month or sometime, and maybe have staff have them appear, and let's kind of get a feel for what is really going on here.
Commissioner Spangler, we'll make a motion that we pass it to next month and have somebody appear.
Have a motion to pass for next month.
Commissioner Russell, I'll second.
Have a second from Commissioner Russell. Is there any discussion on this?
Commissioner Green, just the paperwork they sent in said that he had a shoulder injury the day before he was supposed to attend the academy, and they're not sure how long it's going to take for it to heal, and it may require surgery. And this could be something that's going to be out longer than what we would be providing.
Chairman and commissioners as well, our post-investigative team is going to be presenting something in next month's meeting anyway related to this particular agency. And so I think that probably passing this to next month would be a good idea.
Well, we won't speak on any other matters then, but I would be curious how you hurt his shoulder, and there again, the Fifth Amendment might come in. But anyway, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries to pass till next month. Hamlin County Sheriff's Office.
The Hamlin County Sheriff's Office is requesting 6-month waivers for Cassie Lee Rose Bell and William Travis Lawson. They've been unable to attend a basic police academy due to staffing issues. Ms. Bell and Mr. Lawson are scheduled to attend Walter State Law Enforcement Training Academy in 2023.
Any discussion or questions on this matter? Hearing none, Chair will make a motion to approve. Have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Smith County Sheriff's Office.
Smith County Sheriff's Office requests a 6-month waiver for Robert Paul Collins, hired March 1, 2023. He was scheduled to attend the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy in July of 2023, but was unable to begin training due to an injury. Mr. Collins is scheduled to attend Toledo in October of 23.
Any questions or knowledge or concern with Smith County Sheriff's Office request? Hearing none, Chair will make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Beverly, second.
Commissioner Beverly, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Moving over to page 7.
Stewart County Sheriff's Office requests a 6-month waiver for Graydon Keith Grice, hired March 29, 2023. Mr. Grice is unable to attend the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy in July of 23 due to the class being full. Mr. Collins is scheduled to begin training at Toledo in October of 2023.
Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, Chair will make a motion to approve. Have a second from Commissioner Jackson. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Waivers of 8-month rule.
All right, Post has reviewed all corresponding supporting documents and administratively approved 12 waivers of in-service for the 8-month rule. The documents satisfy the requirements set forth by the Post requirements. The officers will receive the 2022 salary supplement payment if they completed the 2022 in-service requirements. You can see them here from the Chattanooga Police Department and the Memphis Police Department.
Any questions? If not, motion to approve.
Second.
Have a second from Commissioner Russell. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to page 8.
All right, Post, this is waivers for medical, and the departments listed here in the agenda are requesting waivers for medical reasons. The Post team has administratively approved 36 of these medical waivers, and all of the corresponding documents satisfy and meet the requirements that are set forth in the Post rules.
Any questions concerning the waivers for medical? Chair will make a motion to approve. Commissioner Halsey, second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And I want to take a break right here for a second and say I really appreciate the staff and whatnot consolidating our dockets, and really there is a lot of things that comes through this commission that can be handled administratively, but we it gives us a chance to look at this as a whole and grouped and really streamlines this board and this meeting. Thank you for doing that. Waivers for military leave.
You can see here that Post has reviewed and administratively approved 29 military waivers. All the documents for these officers listed in the agenda are in order and meet the requirements of the Post rules.
Chair makes a motion to approve. Commissioner Wright, second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Applications for training officer.
Post investigators reviewed and approved 6 applications for training officer that met the criteria for approval. The officer listed below here on the agenda, Leonard Christopher Fulcher, will have 1 year to complete the instructor development course or an approved substitute.
Thank you. I entertain a motion. Chair makes a motion to approve.
Russell second.
Spangler seconds. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Page 11. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chairman. Applications for certified instructor. Post investigators have reviewed and approved 14 applications for certified instructor. The applicants meet the minimum standards and have completed the minimum hours and attendance at any courses. You'll notice here on the agenda that we have nobody that needs 1 year to complete the instructor development or approved substitute course. We do have one officer that you can see here on the agenda that is requesting a waiver of the 1 year training officer requirement.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns? Chair makes a motion to approve. Commissioner Wright has a second. Discussion on the motion. No discussion on the motion. Indicate all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Curriculum and test.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Post investigators reviewed and approved 126 in-service specialized training classes that meet or exceed the requirements set forth by Post.
Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, Chair makes a motion to approve. Commissioner Wright, second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. And old business.
Harriman Police Department requests a waiver of in-service for Billy Joe Langford, hired December 27, 2022. Mr. Langford was unable to complete the required in-service training for the 2022 calendar year due to the timing of hire. The waiver will allow both the agency and the officer to remain in compliance. And just as for those commissioners that were not there yesterday, we did let them know that they did not have to attend today's meeting, that this would be pretty much just a administrative matter to handle because the issue was put to rest. It was referred to the informal committee by this full body, and the informal committee essentially took no action and dropped the matter.
Any discussion on the matter from any of the commissioners?
Mr. Wagner, I'll make a motion to accept.
Commissioner Green, second.
Have a Commissioner Wagner motion to approve. Commissioner Green, second to a motion. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I think we're to the end of getting close to the end of our docket. We're now over to the backside of page 12, new business for discussion.
We will begin with the agreed order of suspension. Josiah Derek Blakeney. Mr. Blakeney was employed by the Chattanooga Police Department from December 2nd, 2016 until his termination for disciplinary reasons on November 22nd, 2019. Mr. Blakeney has agreed to a 1-year suspension of his post-certification. Legal, would you?
Sure. Dennis Gregory, we have Officer Blakeney and his attorney, Jim Exum, at Chattanooga or Hamilton County Bar. Mr. Exum represents Mr. Blakeney. To give you a little background, in 2019, there was an arrest that Mr. Blakeney effected that resulted in a complaint. Mr. Blakeney was thereafter submitted for decertification. And if you recall from last month, that this was a part of the new business with a separate agreed order for a 4-month suspension. This would be a proposed 1-year suspension. And I'll let Mr. Exum talk at this point. He wants to use his advocacy skills for Mr. Blakeney.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me to attend this morning. I represent Josiah Blakeney, who is on the phone with us today. As Mr. Gregory pointed out, Mr. Blakeney was terminated November of 2019. He has not worked in law enforcement since that time, has been working in the construction industry since that period, has been active member of his community and his church. And we believe that the 1-year suspension of his post is more than fair under the facts scenario before the commission today. And I don't know if Mr. Blakeney will get back into law enforcement, but he at least wants to have that option if he gets out of the construction type business. And so wanted to propose the 1-year suspension, and happy to answer any questions you might have, or Mr. Blakeney is here as well to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioner Wright, is the proposed order, what would be the start of the 1-year suspension proposed?
Be the effective date if it was voted on today when the chairman signs it.
It's nothing retroactive back. This Commissioner Wright again, has this been before the informal or anything? So I've already been part of it.
And Mr. Exum, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this was just Mr. Blakeney elected to let this go just straight to a formal. Is that correct, Jim?
My understanding was that there may have been a hearing in front of the informal, and they referred it to the full committee, I believe. I could be wrong about that.
I'll defer to him. That would sound more consistent with how most of our informals go. So
That's correct. Mr. Blakeney did have an informal hearing, and it was referred to a formal. So he's just been pending since 2021.
If I could just say too that we have a lot of internal discussions at the with our post team and our legal team, and they do a very good job of basically trying to reach what amounts to would amount to a criminal court to a plea agreement, and so. You know, if we don't agree, if we can't come to an agreement, then we're going to have a formal hearing on this, and it would be set out, you know, probably in the you know, hopefully not too distant future. But I just want to say that you know, our legal team does you know, take these very seriously when they are working on what amounts to a plea agreement with these officers.
This is Commissioner Green. If I remember, the informal in the discussion around this suspension was this would put him where he would have to come back for a waiver to keep his certification, to go back through a full academy. It would still be back before the board for him to re-enter law enforcement if this 1-year suspension took place. So we would see him again if he did want to come back into law enforcement, to either attend transition school or go to an academy. That's my remembering of what the discussion was when we had the informal.
At least from last month when the first agreed order was proposed with the 4-month suspension versus the 1 year. But yeah, based on the amount of time that he's been out of law enforcement, coupled with the suspension, if it were approved, then right, he'd at least have to come back for a transition school waiver.
And if I could also add as well that suspensions of your post certification are reported to the NDI, and very thankful to our partners in the state legislature for passing legislation that has gone into effect that requires all local agencies to check the National Decertification Index prior to hiring. So, you know, this suspension is going to remain on that record, and it'll be seen when somebody, you know, if he does attempt to go, you know, work somewhere else, you know, he's going to have to be upfront about the suspension, because it will show up when they check the National Decertification Index.
Any other questions or discussion? Recognize
Commissioner Spangler. I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second? Commissioner Green has a second. Any other discussion on the motions? Hearing none, all in favor of the agreed to motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
University of Memphis Department of Public Safety.
The University of Memphis Department of Public Safety and Karis Bailey was hired May 23rd, 2022. However, Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission did not receive the required paperwork until May 16th, 2023.
Mr. Bello, if you received any, is there paperwork squared away now?
Yes.
And is there any other administrative matters that they need to be dealing with?
No.
Are they online today?
They are online,
yes, sir.
Chairman.
The chair and the board would just like to know what took y'all so long.
Thank you, Commissioners. I apologize for this error on our part. Basically, we had a critical retirement. The captain that was handling most of our hiring and submission paperwork to post retired, and we got a little disorganized. We've regrouped. The other thing that we've done is one of our big delays was getting fingerprints back from TBI, and in this case, and one other officer's case, we never got the cards back. So we've gone to Identigo to correct that and get those submissions done much quicker.
Thank you. Chair, make a motion to approve. Have a second. Any discussion on the motion?
I'd also like to point out that the department does have somebody signed up for our 2-day ACADIS class that we're holding in Madison County in July.
Oh, good deal. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approves. Thank you. You're recognized, Director King.
Thank you very much, Chairman and members of the Post Commission. One of the exciting things that we have coming up in the very near future is the execution of a job task, or the creation of a job task analysis survey and a process to determine what it is that law enforcement officers do across the state of Tennessee. And you're going to hear in just a few moments from our team that we're partnering with at Middle Tennessee State University, very pro law enforcement university, very pro law enforcement criminal justice group. They have got a lot of resources there at MTSU that can help to receive data and process and analyze that data. And so you're going to hear in just a second about the importance of figuring out the frequency of tasks that are performed by law enforcement officers, and then also the criticality of those tasks. And so the last job task analysis that we did was done about 3 decades ago, and one of the most, I guess you could say, visible things that came from that job task analysis was the implementation of the obstacle course at the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy and the other academies across the state. And so what the job task analysis will allow us to do is to look at what law enforcement officers do from small communities, large communities, urban communities, rural communities, a wide sampling of law enforcement across the state, and then be able to develop and bring to this board recommendations for changes to the basic training model, and perhaps even the creation of a model basic training program to even standardize that even further across the state. So it is a large undertaking, but it is one that is very important. I think that we would all say that law enforcement in some areas has changed radically in the last 30 years. And then in some areas, the job is the same. I mean, making an arrest and putting hands on somebody is probably not changed all that much over the last 30 years. You got to put them in handcuffs, take them to jail, right? But there's other things that have changed, and the job has changed. And so it is critical that we complete this job task analysis, and then have some very real discussions with our stakeholders, our chiefs and our sheriffs, and our training officers and our academy directors across the state, and then this board as well, being heavily involved in determining what the future of law enforcement training is in our state. But I will go ahead and introduce Dr. Carter Smith from the MTSU Criminal Justice Department. And what you're going to find is that we have experience in law enforcement on this MTSU team, and we have experience in post on this MTSU team. And they are very pro law enforcement and very pro making sure that our agencies, our customers, the police departments and sheriff's offices across the state are going to be well served by this job task analysis. Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you, and good morning, Commissioners. My name is Carter Smith. I'm with the with the Middle Tennessee State University Department of Criminal Justice. With me is Tom Jerkanen, also with the department, and Raya Al-Edmin, also with Middle Tennessee State University, and she is with the Center for Organizational and Human Resource Effectiveness. Also, the acronym is CORE, if you'd like that abbreviated, which I usually do. CORE is a professional consulting firm with a wide range of human resources experience. Senior consultants with CORE typically have over 20 years of experience and are supplemented by a network of experienced consulting professionals. Having been privileged to see your operation today, I realize you focus on brevity. I will try to do the same, except for those things that I think are key points. I'm going to be using the presentation that we delivered Wednesday to the chiefs of police for the state, and we'll do next month with the sheriffs of the state. So I will keep that brief, and we will skim over a few things. But really quick on my background, I spent 20 years as an enlisted criminal investigator and military policeman, so I have law enforcement experience. 13 of those years were at Fort Campbell, so I was privileged to be able to work with local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies in the Middle Tennessee area. I've since lived in Franklin teaching at Middle Tennessee. I know a lot of the connections there. And then now I'm a proud resident of Beech Grove, which is in Coffee County, where I stay in connection with a lot of the criminal justice people there. I'm also a founding board member of the state's Gang Investigator Association, where we have the entire state of law enforcement. So I try to stay plugged in, don't know everything. We'll never profess to do that, but all good experts will tell you that. CORE has worked with Nissan, State Farm, the Department of Defense, Vanderbilt, Ingram Cancer Center, Kroll Background America, the Jack Daniels Distillery, the Tennessee Highway Patrol, Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, and the Murfreesboro Police Department, and many others. If you go to there, sorry, I'll stop clicking. That works, doesn't it? Okay, good. The purpose of the project that we are proposing is to collect information to update the curriculum to reflect current policing standards in Tennessee. We suspect many of the tasks are being taught already, and this will allow us to verify that. The project will be a comprehensive review of law enforcement training needs for officers in the state of Tennessee, and in the end, the training curriculum will reflect the needs of most officers in the state. Next slide. Why is this important to the officers and deputies across the state? Well, because we will be collecting data to provide a comprehensive review of topics included in the training. With focus groups and surveys of your people, we will analyze how often specific critical activities or tasks occur and how important they are. That will help us suggest training standards that are more reflective of current field activities and helping you give the officers better preparation for their jobs after the academy. It will also give you a degree of legal defensibility, much needed in today's uncertain law enforcement climate. To accomplish this, we need your involvement and assistance, because only you and the leaders in the law enforcement community can tell us what the officers need to know when they start the job. I'll go briefly over the process. If you need me to clarify anything, I can, but essentially we have the steps. The first one is preliminary research. The second one is based on that research, we will do focus groups and interviews. Following that, we'll do a survey of all the officers in the state, officers and deputies in the state, and then we will analyze the data provided in those focus groups, the interviews, and the survey, and identify what we see to be performance objectives and work requirements, and bring that up for discussion and collaboration. The outcomes we expect will include connected performance objectives, very critical when you're doing tasks, with an updated post-training curriculum, and better prepared officers following the academy. Tom, you want to do the rest?
And my name is Thomas Jerkanen. I'm a professor at MTSU in the Criminal Justice Program. Just a little bit of background. I was very much excited to appear before this commission today because of the fact that I served 30 years on the Post Commission in Illinois, and 17 of those years were as the director of the Post Agency. After I retired, moved to Tennessee, and have been teaching at MTSU since. Kind of interesting to see. Part of the things I've done over the years was look at the 50 post commissions and compare their tasks, duties, responsibilities. So every state's a little bit different, but most of them are pretty solid in terms of the core elements of their operation. I also want to mention that Commissioner Beverly attended our program, and I was his advisor, so I'm very pleased to see that he's doing exceedingly well. So I want to talk a little bit about the validation process and give you an overview of why it's necessary. Why do we need to do a validation study? And it all comes back to Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which all of us know prohibits illegal discrimination against job applicants or employees based upon these factors. And the law applies to all type of work situations, including hiring, firing, promotion, harassment. Obviously, the one we're interested in is training, wages, and benefit. So a job task analysis essentially is a process designed to ensure the relevancy and quality of training curriculum and testing instruments through the empirical validation process. In other words, if we tell an individual that they cannot be a police officer because they did not pass the academy or pass the required testing, we should be able to prove, in fairness, that they are relevant to what they would be asked to perform on the job, that they are job related. A job task analysis is an analytical process for determining critical duties and activities in the job. Once the essential job duties are identified, validated, legally defensible, training curriculum and testing instruments can be developed. And we're going to end in a minute with a slide that'll show you kind of the steps that we go through, and it, from a logical standpoint, how this process develops. So the Federal Employment Opportunity Commission requires employees must validate the process by which law enforcement selects and trains their employees. Police officer standards and training commissions are tasked with establishing minimum standards for training law enforcement officers in each state. If an officer fails to meet the minimum training standards, they're ineligible to practice as a law enforcement officer. So for that purpose and in this capacity, post commissions assume the role of an employer. You, as a chief of police or sheriff, hire the individual, then they are sent to the academy. If they don't pass the academy, ineligible to work. So we must be able to prove from a post-commission perspective that any of the requirements that we put in place that would prohibit practice of the profession are validated. As a state agency, post-commissions must comply with federal and state EOC standards while seeking to ensure that only competent recruits are certified as law enforcement officers. Post-commissions provide, through a job task analysis, provide empirical evidence that their training curriculum and testing instruments are non-discriminatory in application, that the recruit basic training curriculum is valid and job-related, and that testing procedures to design and evaluate recruits' level of knowledge, skills, and abilities are reliable and valid instruments of measurement. So that's what we hope to accomplish. In a lawsuit, federal courts will consider whether post-commissions followed established EEOC standards in implementing selection, training, and testing requirements. It's incumbent upon the post-commission, when legally challenged, to demonstrate the process and procedures of validation. So as a commissioner here today, your major concern is that we have fairness to the recruits, but we also, obviously, an important mission of post agencies is to guarantee to the citizens of the state that people who are put on the street are competent in the skills necessary and that the citizens are ensured of that competence. So the director mentioned frequency of performance and criticality of performance. We're going to do a survey, random survey throughout the state to identify critical tasks. Again, we're going to look at the frequency. So officers will be administered a survey when they'll basically be given a list of tasks and say, how often do you perform this task in the function of your job? And then we're going to give that same survey of tasks to supervisors and ask them to rate the criticality of performance. In other words, if the frequency is not high, that doesn't mean that we're going to eliminate that task. And the best example of that is using a firearm. We know that police officers have to be competent to use a firearm. We also know that they very infrequently use their firearm on the job. So the criticality then, in that case, would pick up where performance is lacking, and that would be included as a task. I want to jump forward to this slide that kind of shows the logical steps that I described before. So first of all, what we're going to do is identify the relevant job tasks using a job task analysis. This will be a survey that we'll send out statewide to officers. From that job task analysis, then, we identify worker performance requirements for each job task. So in other words, an example of this might be that the job task is to conduct a routine stop. And then we would go back and identify worker performance required for that. So if you're going to pull over a vehicle, what do you have to do? Establish probable cause, call in to dispatch, a whole series of things, positioning the vehicle, approaching the vehicle, communication. From the ID'd worker performance requirements, we then translate that into performance requirements and performance objectives, and then start to organize the curriculum. One of the things we did in Illinois and would be possible once we have this data, not part of this project, would be possible is that we went ahead and developed a state certification examination. So we already knew what the tasks were, we developed the curriculum, we had the performance objectives, and then we transformed the performance objectives into a statewide examination that was given independent of the academies. It was a state certification or licensing exam, just like real estate or any other of the state licensing exams. Let's stop there, and we'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have. Again, if we look at all 50 states, we did a survey just recently. Only about 12 states have conducted a job task analysis since 2018. So, Tennessee will be one of the leaders throughout the country in having an updated curriculum and a validated curriculum for the law enforcement officers. Any questions you may have? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Oh, absolutely. Very good guy. Oh, absolutely. Skip Bennett was the director there.
Thank you. Thank you for your reporting. Any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Thank you. What time do we need to meet back for the formal?
The formal is scheduled to start at 11. So you want about a 10-minute break, 10, 15-minute break?